Welcome to today's e-com session where we will be looking at a Salesforce dashboard. Some of you might recall when we rolled out our first business unit, Salesforce dashboards, really addressing the question of how are my emails performing? So this is very much that second round of dashboards that are being rolled out, exposing you to those business unit level details, but with a slightly different perspective. So we'll go ahead and take a look at when your emails are performing. I find dashboards to be incredibly useful when analyzing mass amounts of data. So I think a lot of us are in that space where you might be communicating with large audiences and perhaps over long periods of time. And at any point when you deal with a scale of that sort, understanding that population and understanding that data can get really complex. And for me, those visual representations can really help. The other awesome thing about these dashboards in Salesforce is that you can view data in real time, or very close to real time, I should say. So once an email goes out of Marketing Cloud, about 15 minutes or so, that data will be available within Salesforce. So that's really incredible to see. It's also going to help a lot of us avoid manual work. And so previously, to get this sort of data, it wasn't necessarily easily accessible. And so it might have required a lot of manual work or manipulation. And so hopefully it can give those of you who were doing that before some time back, but I've also seen it on the flip side that you just don't have that time to invest. And so hopefully this will give you access to data that you weren't looking at previously. So just one more way to get to know your audience even better. I also like these dashboards for tracking progress. So this isn't something that once we implement it today, it will only serve you for future email sends. If you've been sending in our system from back when we moved into this environment of March of 2019, these dashboards will reflect data or email sends historically or retroactively. So that's a nice little touch. You could have a lot of data in there to assess right now. And if that's the case, that can really help you moving forward with strategy. So definitely the root of what we're getting at. I do want to be very clear on these things, and hence why Claire is here today. It's not black and white. It's data, but it's not. And that's because we're talking about emails to our constituents, who humans just like you and I, if only it was that easy. So I do just want it to be very clear that people thinking, oh, this data is now available, it's going to tell me exactly what my next step should be. That's not the case. This is data telling you how they interacted with an interaction that you put out there. How was that received? There's going to be taking, again, that interpretation, the context, what you know about your audience really needs to be in combination in order for this data to be useful. So if you're thinking today, oh, I'm going to leave and I'm going to know exactly when I should send my next communication, 12:05 tomorrow. Yeah, that's not how it's going to happen. It's not going to answer this question directly. So again, you need to, it's out there for interpretation and also testing down the road. Just because you think this data is telling you one thing and you interpreted it one way, you don't know if that's the accurate interpretation or not until you actually go ahead and apply your theory and see if those tests indicate that you were right or not. And that's not a failure. Learning how not to communicate with people, what doesn't work, very good information to have. All right, so as I said earlier, you might recall when we first rolled out these dashboards in July of 2020, and we added them to the homepage at that point. And so a little screenshot of what was actually on the homepage just yesterday morning. We've changed it slightly to encompass this new dashboard. So hopefully not too different for you, but slightly. And so it's also really important, and I can show this in Salesforce as well. These dashboards can get in a lot of depth on very specific questions. And so the first dashboard that we rolled out really addressed one question, which is just, how are my emails performing? Right, how many emails am I sending? What's my open rate on average? Things like that. General, how are my emails performing at an overarching level? And so while we might be looking at, right, the same email data, these are all the same communications that you all have sent, just a slightly different perspective on that. And so this new dashboard is going to hopefully help you address, when are your emails performing? Not the how, not a percentage. Overall, it's when. Is there a trend in maybe high or low open rates or click rates based on when they are sent? And for some of us, we might find a trend in this. And for others, we might not find a trend in this. Again, just the send time of a communication when something ends up in your inbox, while it's important, it is not the end all be all for opening a communication. Fun's fun. We'll go ahead and pop into Salesforce now and look at these things in real time. Get your hands dirty, and you all are welcome to just follow along on my screen. But as I said, it's ready to go. It should be there. If it's not, we'd like to hear. So feel free to poke around yourself. So I suspect you all know how to get into Salesforce. If you do not, of course, we'll go ahead and use our login on our navigation and popping into Salesforce. So again, just that note that while you typically log into Marketing Cloud, build your emails and hit send on that, all that rich data from Marketing Cloud does get sent back to Salesforce. So we will be logging into Salesforce. See this Marketing Cloud data. So this is the home screen now, and it is slightly different than before. So one thing you might notice on the left-hand side here, this dashboard did in large part exist there previously. We did go ahead and change the names to be a bit more friendly to you all. So this is kind of just a condensed version of a dashboard indicating that question that we've gone ahead and rolled out previously. So while this helps you interpret this for the entire organization, right, where we all know you all probably have more interest is in your specific business units. So if you're wanting to see information, right, about how my email is performing, this kind of coincides with what's available on the right column here under business unit dashboards. So if you're looking at seeing how are my emails performing, you're definitely going to want to drill into one of these for your campus. And so that is, again, what we rolled out previously, or last July. So I am going to take a slight detour before we get into some more detail on it. What we've added as you scroll down is this second dashboard, a condensed version of what you can get for your specific business unit, but addressing when are my emails performing. So might be dependent on the time of day you're sending things out, maybe the day of the week matters how folks are engaging, but a really great dashboard to start assessing those questions. So I will go ahead, we're going to dive into this dashboard a bit more. And so what coincides with this dashboard is, of course, on this right-hand side under when are my emails performing. So that's the question you're going to want to address. We can go ahead and open up one of those. And for today, and Claire being on the line, I will go ahead and open up our Denver dashboard. All righty. So in these dashboards and all of them, and the consistency that one, I like, and two, that I intend on following through, right, minimize that learning curve. So if you've dealt with these dashboards before, you'll be aware that up here, this filter is really what's filtering this data from everything at CU down to what's going on in your campus, or even better, what's going on in your particular business unit. So when you do select these in the drop down or that filter, it will automatically refresh. But a note for all of you, as you start working with these dashboards, and right, most of us, we only work in one business unit. You're going to open this up once and it's going to stay on that filter, which is awesome. But a little trick, or if you're looking at it thinking, well, the data is not up to date. Always be mindful of when the dashboard was last ran. And in this case, it's very, very recent. But sometimes you'll see, oh, it was ran 5 days ago or something. That's fine. The data exists. It just hasn't been refreshed in these visual components yet. And so you can always just go ahead and select refresh in the top right as well. And we also have next to that drop down pretty intuitive as far as the date sent. So if you do not select anything on this and keep it as all, the other cool thing about these dashboards are, this is historical information. This is not going to start, oh, we created this dashboard and now the next email you send is going to show up on this dashboard. Nope, we have this email send data for some of us, if you've been in the system, from when we migrated into this org in March of 2019. And so you will be seeing data that goes back retroactively, which is awesome to see. But if you want to look at a smaller time frame, those options are absolutely available there for you as well. So I will go through this dashboard somewhat quickly, just what data we can see here. So this is very much split, right, as we can see visually, from the left column and the right column. So these vertical dash or component that you're seeing on the left here is how many emails have been sent. And so interesting to see some trends around here just for this particular unit. Looks like Tuesday's a heavy send day. So even without looking at how people are engaging with emails, just even looking at this, I've had moments I'm like, wow, apparently I like sending on a Wednesday. I never really planned it, but maybe my schedule cleared up or whatever that might be. So it can be an interesting one. And they also, please ignore, I guess, we did have to put like 2.1 and 2.2 in here. It organizes alphabetically. So just to keep things in the correct order logically, there are some numbers in there, but the only reason for that. And then on the flip side, on that right-hand side, what we can see are these actual rates. So somewhat coinciding with this, right, 206 that was sent to, that's what we're seeing over here this afternoon. And what are those rates? The click. So very similar model as far as the two components that are shown in each row, but we are able to get, again, a little bit of a different perspective. So these are telling us the time of the day of the week, right? Monday, and was it before noon or was it afternoon? Well, our next one, we kind of get rid of that day parameter and break it down even further to 3 sections of the day. Is there a time that things are being received better, regardless of the day that it is sent on? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on your audience. That one could be interesting for you all. Somewhat similarly, just day of the week. Maybe that delineation between getting it in the morning versus the afternoon or that evening time frame doesn't matter. And it's more driven just by the time of the day, or sorry, the day of the week. And then that final perspective, and I was on the fence about this one. I might have wrongly made some assumptions through time, not having data, that maybe communications around the start or the end of the week aren't received well. And I don't know if that's true. Somewhere in my head was like, Mondays are really busy and Fridays are really busy. I don't know. So maybe there is a trend there. And again, maybe there isn't. I am going to go ahead and hand things over to Claire real quick to talk about a particular campus dashboard, give a little context around what type of communications they send and what she's learned from this dashboard.
So as Mel said, I am the senior ecom specialist on the CU Denver campus. So nice to meet some of you, and I see Monica on the call who's a Denver user. Glad you could all join us. I just wanted to give a little background, as Mel alluded to, in terms of how I specifically have used this dashboard in my day-to-day communication sending, in hopes that it brings it to life a little bit and may help inform your decisions moving forward. So just a little background, I do operate in the CU Denver Chancellor Business Unit, which is, you'll see I have this filtered to my business unit all time right now. If you're not on the Denver campus, I'm sure you have a similar business unit that's kind of all encompassing on your campus. We use it for, chancellor communications, provost communications, really any type of university communication initiative, whatever that may be, a town hall, online learning strategies, budget updates, just kind of a catch-all for all university communications go into this business unit. And the specific communication I want to talk about is here. You'll see this is just the web version. I clicked the little button at the bottom of the email that said view as web version. But it's a message from Chancellor Marks regarding vaccine eligibility for higher education faculty and staff. So definitely a hot topic on our campus, as I'm sure it is on all of your campuses as well. And what happened was we got news of this decision from the governor late on a Friday afternoon. And our leadership team reached out and, provided the content, but also asked if I thought, given the timing on Friday afternoon, if I thought we should wait until Monday morning to send it, or if we should go ahead and send Friday afternoon. And similar to what Mel was talking about, I had this perception in my mind as well that Friday afternoons just are not good. People are trying to get out the door. They're trying to cross these last minute items off their list for the week. And that's kind of in the past how I had proceeded with our sends. I would try to check Marketing Cloud tracking in the tracking tab where you can look at the reporting and see who's opened it. And I would try to do that on a one-off basis for emails. So like, what's the last email we sent on a Friday afternoon? Did that perform well? And compare it with one we sent on a Monday morning. But obviously that's not an ideal strategy because it's highly dependent on the content of that email when you have such a small sample size. When I'm just comparing one and one, I mean, perhaps recipients are a lot more interested in vaccination information than they are about something we sent Monday morning. So that data isn't really reliable with me just checking one-to-one. So that's where this dashboard has really come in handy. I will show you, you can see that our perception, I'm scrolling down here to this email sent by day of the week, obviously void of Saturday and Sunday, which we don't send on typically. You'll see that Friday, close to Tuesday is one of our lowest send days. And really that's because of that perception I had that Fridays just don't get great engagement. Just kind of an assumption not based on data, based off of behavior, we thought. But this brought it to life. Okay, yep, that's validating what we had done in the past. But now when I'm asked, I can actually go up to this right-hand chart here, the average open and click rate by time and day. And given it is pretty even across days, however, when you hover over this Friday afternoon, you see it's 37.9% open rate, which is actually the highest of any of these time slots. So my perception that Friday afternoon was not good for engagement was not right. And we ended up sending this communication around 3 p.m. on a Friday. And as you can see, based off this data, that was the right thing to do. 37.9% for Friday afternoon. You go into Monday afternoon and it drops significantly to 33.3% for an open rate. A little higher for Monday morning, but still Friday was our best bet. So we did end up sending Friday. It performed well. I think the average open rate was around 35.5%, which is good for, it's much above our average for that audience. So it turned out well. I will say, obviously this is a hot topic. So we knew people were going to be interested in it. So I know that's a factor in that open rate. However, what's nice is that I can go back and say, I know that's not just a fluke because of the content. I can actually look at all of our sends from all time and see that no matter the content, it's holding true that, close to 38% of people are opening at that time. I will also say that I'm sure it's the same in your communication shops. We do not always have the flexibility to choose when to send these emails. A lot of times there's an emergency or something needs to get out before a meeting later that afternoon, all kinds of hurry up and send type situations. And obviously those are not times in which this dashboard can be used. And that's probably a good chunk of our communications, but I am getting in the habit of, okay, when we do have time, when I'm asked what day of the week or what time of the day we should send, I can go back and reference this and make a decision accordingly. The only other thing I was going to note, you'll notice I've been referring to the open rates specifically and not necessarily mentioning the click-through rates. Well, for this communication, I was really focused on the open rate specifically. The click-through rates, the links in this email were previously distributed. They were kind of like reminders almost. So I wasn't as worried about people clicking through to this content as I was of people getting this information, opening the email and reading it. So that's why I was focused on the open rate over that pink click-through rate. Though for a future situation, if we're really trying to get people to click to register for a town hall or something that I'm driving action instead of informing recipients, that's when I'd more so look at the pink bar and perhaps choose a different day than Friday. So just wanted to call that out, that's why I was looking at the open rate, not the click-through. But that's my spiel. That's why we are now open to sending on Friday afternoons. And I hope it's helpful when you're going to look at this graph and interpret it according to your needs.
Love it, Claire. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I have to smirk at, right, you and I had an incorrect assumption that, right, we're the experts in the field and we thought, yeah, this is right, because that's how I operate in my own life. Yeah, if you don't have to make an assumption, don't look at data.
Totally.
Good lessons learned. I will go ahead and pause there. Very much just some final closeout items. Do we have any questions right now? Okay. And not surprised, I know last time we didn't have a ton of questions, mostly. We got to go back and look at all this rich data now. So I will leave you all just a couple notes. If you at any point cannot find your business unit, let us know. If you know you're sending, absolutely there's a chance of error on my end. Happily to go ahead and add that in there. You would essentially be seeing zero data showing. So there could be issues there, but we've tried to do our due diligence. You can also subscribe to these dashboards. And so a little bit of a bummer there. It is not going to send, it sends each of these components as an entire email to your inbox. And right initially people are like, awesome, I'll forward that on to my bosses. it's going to show you, it's not going to apply the filter to those. So it really just serves as more of a reminder to log into Salesforce and then apply that filter. So it might not meet that need of just sending your boss all these analytics. Not going to work well. The other piece that I will mention, and so slightly less intuitive to navigate to, but I mention this because you can favorite these items to make it easier for you to navigate to if you want to. And so in your navigation, you should have dashboards. And from there, you are able to see, what do we have? All dashboards. And so I do have access to many more than the typical user. So hopefully you don't even have to scroll on these. But essentially once you find, this is the folders dashboard. Oh, sorry. You can see in these folders, right? How are my emails performing? Oh, this is the one for Boulder. And you are able to favorite these items. And so the reason you might want to favorite an item is now it's going to show up under dashboards as a favorite here. It's also going to show up under my favorites here. So might be easier for you, but I also think we've designed it pretty well that you can just pop into these as well, whatever you're comfortable with. All righty, y'all. I think that's everything we have. Do let us know if you need help interpreting this. What does this mean? How can I apply this? Those are definitely conversations that I'm excited to have down the road. I'm looking at today is just planting that initial seed. All right, thank you all so much for joining. Claire, thank you for talking about your use case. I think that was very relevant and hopefully resonates with everyone.
Sure, thank you, Mel.